I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with John Rzeznik and Robby Takac, otherwise known as the one, the only, the Goo Goo Dolls. Guys, this live special, It's Christmas All Over, is billed as the first ever augmented reality movie musical. And I was just like, what does that mean? I have no idea. So I obviously watched it and was so immersed in this very upbeat, uplifting, hour-long special where you guys are kind of singing and serenading the audience. John, where did this all come from?
Well, the idea for it, I guess, came from Barry Summers, the producer, director, writer, the whole thing. We got they wanted to do this thing, and they explained it to us, and I didn't understand it at all either. How do you do something like this? And so we just said, well, we'll take a leap of faith with it and try to make it happen. And we did, and it was really a lot of fun. There's some parts of it that are kind of cheeky, I guess you would say. Hopefully, the tongue is firmly planted in the cheek, And what I loved about it was that it harkened back to a lot of the old Christmas specials that we saw when we were little kids, in that way. And then it just had this crazy, all-encompassing technology surrounding it. And I guess the premise of the story is that we sort of wind up in a snow globe, trying to find the meaning of Christmas.
And Robbie, what were your thoughts when this was presented to you as an idea for you guys to tackle?
Well, I guess the augmented reality, like the world was in augmented reality at that time. So I guess it didn't seem all that strange, really, because everything was so weird. We hadn't seen people in a really long time, and certainly hadn't been in a room with, 60 people putting together a huge production. So even behind the scenes, there was something that was kind of special that was happening, at the time. And, I think it really made its way onto the screen as well.
Yeah, it did. It was really a lot of fun. Barry was very energetic, and and he made the process, we did 5 or 6 days worth of work in 2 days, or a day. Was it a day or 2 days?
Yeah, it was a day, pretty much.
1 day. Yeah.
Full day.
He was able to hold it together, like the 18th hour when everybody was getting a little cranky. But I think it turned out great. The idea of the whole show is just, we got to be on the Ed Sullivan Show, fake. We got to be in a subway station. We got to, we were in a 20s speakeasy. It was like the whole thing was just, it was so much fun. And I loved the vibe, and the color of it I thought was really interesting. The way they colored everything had this nostalgic kind of feel to it.
And quite often you offered this kind of thing, and you'll come in and you'll lip sync to the tracks and such, but they were pretty adamant, when we came in, saying, we want this to be a performance, and that was really exciting for us to be able to do as well. Because like I said, most of the time when you're in these types of situations, you're just sort of there pretending to play your songs. Yeah. But it was great.
Well, we were actually, Barry actually let us perform live, that's a pretty bold move, because a lot of producers, directors, they don't want to deal with musicians screwing things up. But all in all, I think it was a lot of fun, and I think it made a lot of people happy, which was, I think, something that was really important, for that Christmas, because there were so many people that were separated at that point in time.
That's right. We were talking offline about how the pandemic has really affected so many people worldwide, but just particularly for our sake, this discussion, the performing arts has been completely obliterated. But you guys really hustled behind the scenes, and I'm so impressed with the way you were able to pivot into something new and then couple yourselves with Fantrax. People who don't know what Fantrax is, it was developed last year as a way to get fans engaged with performing artists, and for you guys to be able to perform as opposed to just being lip syncing little monkeys in a special way. It was really, really immersive. That's a really, really interesting way for you guys to stay engaged with your fans, and so all power to you. So that must have been very exciting.
It was really exciting to have the opportunity to do this, and and the other things that we were able to do. Like I said, it was a way. It was a time where we were like, okay, well, we have something that we can still give to people, during a really tough time, and and it was definitely a way of giving back to our audience, and try to help out. And not just sit back and wait for somebody to fix it. It was just
And Fantrax also put together a pretty interactive thing for the fans. So we did meet and greets just like we did at our shows over Zoom, and we did Q&As, and there were other things involved, and a lot of the fans that are used to getting together every year, they missed out. They're a family of people after all these decades of getting together, and they actually got a chance to albeit online, but they got a chance to kind of get together and spend a little bit of time together during the holidays, and that was pretty fun too for them.
Yeah. Does it are you once again just very conscious of the power of music and how music can really, really just transport you and kind of change your life? It sounds cliche and it's kind of dorky, but it's absolutely true. Do you guys agree?
I totally agree with that. I'm amazed. The thing that proves that point to me is like the last time we were out on tour, the country was very divided on a political, social kind of way. But you got 10,000 people in a room, and then they're all there enjoying something together despite their differences. So in that way, it might sound corny, but music can transcend these other minor disputes and differences that people have. And, we got all kinds of people singing the words to your songs. And that's a powerful thing, because that's something that can unite people despite other pretty serious differences.
And that's what we need more of, particularly these days. I was slightly surprised when I realized that you both the band had put together this Christmas album. It's not something that I was expecting from Goo Goo Dolls. So talk us through why. Yeah, why? Why did you decide to revisit these traditional holiday classics, but with your sound, and then also even write something original for the holidays that we can now listen to every December?
Well, I grew up, Christmas was always my favorite holiday when I was a kid growing up. And I wanted to make a very old school kind of Christmas album. And so we did a lot of research in how to record the way that they used to record, to really sort of get that sound. And we sort of had to merge the modern world of the future and digital with the old analog world. And I thought it turned out really, really well. Those songs are timeless, and they make me smile and they make me feel good, and a bit nostalgic, Sometimes it was a little schlocky, but that was okay, because that's what Christmas is. It's a Christmas record. Of course it's going to be schlocky in spots, but all in all, I think it turned out really well. And once again, it was like we were going to do one song, but then it was like, well, it just seemed like the whole world was coming apart at the seams. And I was like, well, let's make a whole record, let's make a whole record and see what happens. And we did, and we had a great time doing it. And those songs, by the way, are no joke. Like, singing rock and roll music is nothing compared to trying to sing these classic Christmas songs. I mean, the music and the intervals and it's insane. It was really difficult, but it was great because we had the right people and we rose to the challenge of it. I think we put out a pretty good record.
Yeah, Robbie, I was going to ask actually, the arrangements and the way that these songs have come out are not just your everyday Christmas carol that I listened to as a kid. You guys actually tried to revisit these a bit. There's a pop sound to them, but they're definitely Goo Goo Dolls inspired. So was there a lot of work put in to make them a bit more interesting and a bit more dynamic?
Well, I think John produced the record with our keyboard player who knows a little bit more about jazz, and our guitar player who may be a bit more learned as well. So I think they brought some weapons to the fight that we normally weren't using, during the songwriting processes and stuff. So I think the combination of those personalities
the guys in the band, Jim McGorman and Brad Burnquist, they brought a definite educated skill set to the studio. They were able to talk to the real musicians. Like I would say to Jimmy or somebody, "Now I kind of want this to be more like boom, bada 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 ba ba boom," and then he would play it, and then he would explain it to the musicians, and then it would actually sound like what I heard in my head, which was incredible. And it's so difficult to actually pull that off. Really, I mean, it was great. Couldn't have done that without them.
Yeah. You guys have an album coming up actually later this month. It's a compilation album, Rarities, a retrospective collection, I guess, of B-sides and things that we haven't really heard before, or tracks that were going to surprise us, right? So why did you decide that was going to be the next chapter of Goo Goo Dolls, John?
Well, because I was in my manager's office, and he had a bunch of these old digital audio tapes, DAT tapes, big in the 90s. You won't find them anywhere now. But and I said, he dozens and dozens and dozens of tapes. And I'm like, what's on all this? And he's like, I have no idea. And so I went on eBay and I found him a digital audio tape recorder. Yeah. So he could play them. So he sorted through, I just must have been hundreds of songs. And then he picked the ones that he thought were really kind of interesting and different. A lot of alternate versions, demos, outtakes, those kind of things. And he put them together on this thing. I mean, that's all our manager, really put Rarities together for us, Yeah,
I'm really excited to hear it. Robbie, was it fun, or was it nostalgic to be able to revisit some of these tracks that maybe you didn't even remember?
Yeah, I mean, some of them I think was probably the first time we ever heard them, honestly.
Wow.
In a box office. Yeah. I mean, it's just a collection of a whole bunch of stuff that happened over 10 years, basically. Some of it maybe isn't as beautiful as as the versions you remember, because they happen at 7.
Polished.
Yeah, because they happen at 7 in the morning at the radio station or whatever. But like, I think that's part of the excitement of a record like this, is that it lets you sort of, see those kind of private-ish moments.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty interesting because when you're listening to a lot of the live performances, you can hear where the train wrecks occurred, and I thought, this is my next big idea. I would love to get 10 bands that would be willing to expose one of their worst train wrecks live and get these recordings and just have an album full of train wrecks from famous bands, because it happens all the time,
My favorite is when we stopped in the middle of Broadway in front of the entire Warner Brothers staff and Fleetwood Mac. Remember that?
Yeah. Stop.
Oh,
Someone forgot the song.
I'm not sure who it was, but somebody did.
oh man, that's terrifying. You know what though? I've been listening to your music for ages, like early 2000s in particular. When I was a bit younger and less grey hair, I would listen to you in the car, and yet after all your success, even now, people still want to talk about Iris, right? And I remember saying the other day to someone, a good friend, oh, what are you doing? Oh, yeah, I'm interviewing the Goo Goo Dolls and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, because I don't want the world. Like they started singing the lyrics. People know it. It's like it's implanted in our DNA. How do you feel about that song and people still wanting to talk about how much it means to them?
I mean, honestly, I don't want to sound, but I mean, that song is one of those things that came in the top of my head and came out of my mouth, and I was just sort of in the middle, I don't know why it struck such a nerve, but I am very grateful that it did, because it helped launch the rest of our career. It has certainly cast a very long shadow, but I didn't realize that it would have had the staying power and the kind of cultural impact that it did. It was just one of those songs. I mean, right place, right time. All the stars aligned. What other weird metaphors can I make? It was a lot of luck too, and taking a huge risk, because that was the first time that we had used like a big orchestra on something, and the producer was like, yeah, we got to put strings on this. And Robbie and I were sitting in front of the glass watching the orchestra in the live room, and they started playing, and I got goosebumps. And Robbie and I looked at each other. I don't know who said it to who. And it's like, look, man, we're turning a corner and we can't go back. And then we were kind of like, okay, let's do it. And then we sort of dove headlong into the whole thing, and just went with it. And it's
That
like,
song was,
the song has been an enormous blessing to us.
yeah, that song was on the Dizzy Up the Girl record, but it was actually recorded prior to us doing the Dizzy Up the Girl record. So that was like a very transformational moment. Like, I don't know if Dizzy would have turned out the way it did if we didn't sort of live through the experience, of recording Iris and sort of understanding a different way of kind of going about things. And yeah, it's, it's a long shadow, but sometimes it helps to get out of the burning hot sun too,
Yeah. Damn good point. And it's just there's not that many bands that can point to a song that has really transformed. I even think pop culture, there's probably 50 songs from the 90s to the 2000s that could do that, and you guys have one of them. It's
very
so great.
few, I think. It's interesting. It's interesting now that when I look back on that whole time, I mean, so many of the bands that Robbie and I came up with, I mean, they're not around anymore. It gets kind of lonely when you think, remember those guys? We toured with those guys, and it was, I think, because we got some success right at the beginning of the internet and piracy and the digital thing, and just, I think that put a real dent in our generation's music.
Sure.
Yeah, it's such a different world now, right? Everything's streaming, and I don't know how the young bands survive. It's a totally different world. And
Rich parents.
yeah. If only we had that.
I only had a rich dad.
But anyway, guys, I really appreciate your time today. I thought It's Christmas All Over was so wonderful to experience. I really appreciate how you guys really care about your fans, and you actually decided to put some new stuff out while we were all suffering at home. Thank you for your time today, and good luck with Rarities. I can't wait to listen to it.
Thank you so much, man. Great talking to you. We'll see you probably in person at some point in time.
Hope so.
Without a mask.
All right. Talk to you soon, brother.
Take care.